Welcome to an introductory video for the fast-play Ancient Naval game Oarful Seas. Today I'll be giving you a quick look at the basic mechanics of the game and what you need to play. Oarful Seas is an ancient naval game that lets you fight the great naval battles of antiquity. The rule set is primarily focused on the First Punic War, but other theatres are easily playable too. To play Oarful Seas you will need the rule set, which is available in PDF form from Wargame Vault, link in the description. You will also need some measuring tape, some dice, some tokens to track ship damage and when squadrons have activated. I like to use these small dice, which I place on the deck of the ship, with a 1 being slowed and a 6 being immobilized, but you can use whatever method you wish. Terrain in the form of islands can be useful in some scenarios, though they are not required. You will also need ships, of course. Oarful Seas plays comfortably between 10 to 30 ships per player, grouped into 2 to 3 squadrons. There are several varieties of ships in Oarful Seas, from small biremes and triremes to the Roman and Carthaginian quinquiremes, all the way to the big admiral ships like the hexareme or even the decares. It is important to keep track of which ships are in which squadron. I do this by colour coding my squadrons. Roman ships are red, dark blue and orange with a yellowish hull. In contrast, my Carthaginian squadrons are light blue, green and purple with dark wood hulls. It can also be useful to have tokens representing wrecked ships. I have 3D printed some nice wrecked tokens here, but you could just print off some wrecked tokens that look like a wrecked ship and that would work just as well. Here we have a small setup for Oarful Seas. Each side has 2 squadrons of 4 quinquiremes. You generally have a lot more than this. We'll use this setup to demonstrate some of the basic mechanics of the game. In Oarful Seas, each ship type has a set of 5 stats: move, ram, grapple, board and missile. Roman ships are generally slower, but benefit from better grapple and boarding scores due to their corvus boarding planks. Carthaginian ships are more manoeuvrable and better at ramming. For Greek or other naval powers, you will generally use the Carthaginian list. A basic turn consists of both players rolling for initiative. The highest score activates one of their squadrons. Once complete, their opponent activates their squadron. Players continue activating until all squadrons have activated and the next turn begins. When a squadron activates, it goes through 4 phases: the action phase, the missile phase, the boarding phase, and then finally the repair phase. In the action phase, the player rolls a d6. This represents the number of single ship or group activations they can perform in the turn. To perform a single ship activation, the players select a ship and decide what kind of movement it will do. They can move forward, reverse, or hold position. If they are within possible range of an enemy ship, they can go full speed to attempt a ram. Here we will do a simple forward move. Movement in Oarful Seas is randomized. The ship rolls 1d6 and adds their move value. For the Carthaginians, that is 2. They can then move that amount of inches in a line forward. If a ship wishes to turn at any point during their move, they can move in up to 90-degree increments at the cost of 2 inches of movement. A group move moves a number of ships in close proximity at the same speed. This can be used to keep multiple ships in formation. Those ships of different speeds will all move at the speed of the slowest ship. In this situation, the Carthaginian ship is within range to attempt to ram the Roman ship. For a ram, you roll 2d6 and add your move value, giving you much increased range for the ram. However, you must move towards the nearest reachable target. If you fall short, you are unable to shoot missiles or perform repairs later in the activation. If you hit, you roll on the ram chart. The ram chart has a variety of modifiers, a low score, and the ram fails, moving the ramming ship back half an inch to break contact. A higher score may damage the enemy ship, making them slowed or immobilized. Again, the ramming ship moves back half an inch to break contact. Ships can only remain in contact if they are grappled and conducting boarding actions later in the activation. If you roll really high, you can sink the ship immediately. The rammed ship becomes a wreck, and the ramming ship moves back as usual. Occasionally, you will get unlucky and both ships will become stuck together, and boarding actions will occur in the boarding phase. An alternative to ramming is shearing. If, during any forward or ramming movement, ships pass from front to back within half an inch of an enemy ship, they may roll to shear the opponent's oars. This is not able to sink an enemy ship, but it is likely to slow or immobilize it. Slowed ships can no longer group move and move at half their modified dice roll in inches. Immobilized ships cannot move at all. They count as lost for morale, but can still fire missiles at nearby ships or respond to boarding attempts. If a ship would prefer to get stuck in, they may use a normal forward move to make contact with an enemy ship. They must then attempt to grapple the opponent. Both players roll a d6 with the grappler adding their grapple score. If they beat their opponent, they stay in base contact and conduct boarding in the next phase. If they fail, they are pushed back half an inch to break contact. Before we conduct our boarding though, ships that have not attempted to ram or board may fire arrows in the missile phase. Ships have a range of 8 inches and the attacker rolls a d6, adds their missile value and consults the missile chart. A successful missile attack cannot sink an enemy ship, but it can slow or immobilize it. Now on to the boarding phase. Boarding involves both players rolling a dice and adding their board value. If the difference between the scores is 2 or less, the ships will continue fighting into the next activation or turn. If the difference is 3 or more, victory has been achieved and the losing ships has been captured and is removed from the table. It is also possible to do multi-ship boarding actions where the combined boarding scores of the ships are used. Finally, we get to the repair phase. Any ships that have been slowed may attempt to repair and get back into the action. Ships that are immobilized are far too compromised and cannot repair during the battle. Repairing is a simple d6 roll, aiming for a 6+. A success removes the slowed token from the ship. Once this is all done, it is the opponent's turn to activate a squadron and proceed through the same 4 phases for their squadron. When at least half of the squadron's ships has been sunk, immobilized or captured, the squadron has been broken. D3 activations are rolled each turn instead of D6, and only single ship actions are allowed. Any ship that did not activate and are not currently grappled or immobilized must attempt to exit the table on their player's edge whenever they are activated. At the start of each new turn, when at least half of a player's squadrons are broken, roll a d6. On a 4+, the fleet retires from the battlefield and the opponent is declared a winner. In Oarful Seas, games are decisive with casualties mounting quickly and fleet morale dropping fast. It leads to historical results, and a typical 30-ship-a-side game will take approximately 2 hours. There are also a selection of optional rules for flagships and troop transports, alongside 4 scenario types. I hope you've enjoyed this rules review. If you're still interested, please click the link below to purchase the rules and try them yourself. Feel free to comment if you have any feedback. Especially if you've played the rules, I'm always looking to hear that. Thanks.